little steam tonight.
Here we go. Check it out, people.
They have more than one brain.
Live across Canada, this is The Shift.
877-399-9898. Your calls welcome all the time. Security in our lives, privacy, and all the things are very, very important to us. That's one conversation that keeps coming up again and again and again. So I wanted to bring on a buddy of mine. His name is Hank Fordham, Hank the Hacker, and to dig into things. Before, Hank, we get into the important hacking stuff, I do have a couple of very, very important questions for you. So I hope that's okay. These very, very important questions because of the music history inside your family with your dad, Kelly, and all the times that he spent in around playing music. And I'm assuming you've been to a pub or two in your day and spent a day with a chicken wing or something like that. Is that the case?
Yeah, I actually, my dad brought me to a lot of places growing up, and one of the most notable being the Shamrock in downtown Calgary.
Yeah. It burned down, rebuilt it. My goodness. Do you want to tell, just so everyone understands, the story of your dad before we get there and why you as a child were in bars?
So my dad was Kelly J, and one of the hit songs he wrote with Rolly Greenway in the band Crowbar, Oh What a Feeling. It was a pretty big hit back in the 60s and 70s, and it landed him some pretty big gigs. And he's in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. And yeah, so he founded a few things in Canada, like the CanCon regulations for Canadian content being played on radios, and he's actually supposed to get an award next year for that. And yeah, so him and Crowbar.
Yeah, very cool. Well, I mean, so my point was to introduce you and your background with that, because you're not, even though you're a hacker, you are not a stranger to music and all these things. So we've been talking on the show tonight, Hank, about what are the best flavors of chicken wings out there. So what is according to Hank the Hacker, what is the best flavor of the chicken wing?
Okay, well, I would say salt and pepper, but my girlfriend would probably kill me if I didn't mention at least honey garlic.
Have you ever combined honey garlic and hot sauce?
Yes, and also ordering half honey garlic and half salt and pepper seems to be a good compromise.
Well, that would work. I mean, I got to tell you, I was recently introduced to the honey hot, the honey garlic mixed with the buffalo hot sauce, and I got to tell you, that's mind-blowing. That's good stuff right there. Oh, man, absolutely good. I recommend you try it. All right, Hank Fordham, Centurion Defense in Calgary. Now, you are a white hat hacker. That means you're one of the good guys. And welcome to the show. We've had you on before, but we wanted to talk a little bit more regularly about some of the things that are going on in the world, because I think we start with the Twitter part, Hank, because that happened a week or so ago, and there is sort of new news in that there's no news of what's going on with that. So let's start there. What are you seeing from the deep, dark underworld of interwebs?
Well, it's a pretty funny situation considering, everyone's kind of holding back on saying anything. And in terms of them giving no news, I don't think that they really know who was affected necessarily. And that's a big part of what we're doing at Centurion Defense in detecting vulnerabilities and being able to try and interpret logs in a way that companies can understand, because I don't know if they're even able to track down what employee had access or what employee was giving out access to this tool. But it was definitely like a control panel tool, like we assumed last week or the week before. And I think it was only around 1,000 Twitter employees that even have access to this tool, but one of them, I'm pretty sure they were bribed or paid off. And I think about 4 people were given access to the tool.
Huh. So there was, there have been some articles written about that, right? That have hackers convinced Twitter employees to help them hijack accounts. Has there been any evidence of that, or is this just one of those things that there's no other way to get in?
Well, besides Twitter announcing that they were a victim of social engineering attacks, it's happened in the past a few times, and even on other platforms like Roblox being one example, where the exact same thing happened. A hacker was able to social engineer one of the employees into giving them back-end access and being able to have full God mode access to user accounts.
How would social engineering work? Because I'm guessing it's not like you can make friends, share some chicken wings, and say, hey, by the way, I want you to put your whole career at risk so I can do this. I'm guessing it would be a little bit more nefarious, where must be some sort of blackmail or something going on there. What do the black hat hackers do in order to sort of have the gotcha for these people to be able to get access?
Usually social engineering is just going to happen in the form of like a malicious email, and hackers can even make these emails look like they've come from a legitimate source. So you can even receive an email that looks like it came from Twitter support when it really didn't, and the link inside the email is nefarious and might be trying to harvest credentials that you enter on the other side.
People always screw everything up. All right, let's move on to what happened at Garmin this week. Is when Garmin was down, the ability to use Garmin devices even was down. Yeah. So help us understand what happened there. Yeah.
Well, yeah, their navigation services went down, and with that, aviation services and a few other products and services that they offered. And there was a huge question of whether or not with that went some private data, including metadata like GPS locations or just personal information. And it came out that the hackers responsible, Evil Corp, it's a Russian group, they don't really have a history of harvesting information in order to kind of blackmail the victim into paying the ransom. So there's no big worry of them leaking information, but it's been kind of an increasing habit among the ransomware criminal organizations to collect this kind of information and hold another ransom later, and especially considering if the company doesn't pay the ransom.
Well, you would never know, right? Like, it's classic in the movies where, all you have to do is give me my money and I'll give you the thumb drive. And then at the end of the movie, it's like, I gave him a fake thumb drive. This is the real one. And then the lovers walk into the sunset. I mean, that's classic Hollywood stuff right there. I mean, if you're going to pay $10,000 to a hacker online, I mean, I guess I would say that integrity is probably not the most clear thing in that situation to begin with. Why in the world would they not keep some of the information and then come back to you for more money later?
Well, exactly. And if they're not coming back to the company for more money later, they might even just be participating in data trading in the deep web. And that's how your passwords end up on Have I Been Pwned all the time. You can check if you've been a part of any past breaches by going to haveibeenpwned.com and kind of looking at searching for your email addresses, work emails, and just seeing if they've been a part of any breaches in the past.
So the Garmin situation, they've come back up now after all that. Do you know how it was rectified?
What I think happened is I think they had backups that were frozen, so they were kept offline. And when the ransomware attack happened, I think their way of mitigating the attack was knocking the servers offline, wiping them, and then restoring it from the backup that was clean.
Which could have been as early as last night kind of scenario.
Yeah, and it takes time to set some of these services up. That's why you have some up, some down, and I think that's a reason why they haven't really spoken much on if they paid the ransom or not. I don't think they did.
So facial recognition is another thing that's come up in this conversation here over the last little bit. if governments and everything else have these prints, right? I mean, with everything that's been going on, because there's been a bunch of scraping to get everyone's images and try to compare the data from the images. I don't know. It's weird now. You go on, you'll get a message from someone else on Facebook that says, or from Facebook that says, "Hey, you know, Chris posted this picture. This looks like you. Should we tag you?" And that's creepy. First of all, I don't know why Chris is taking my picture. Weird. But but really, like that would be it. And all of a sudden Facebook recognizes me and asks me if it's me. So this is a big deal, but it's starting to, you know, maybe thanks to COVID isn't all bad. It's starting to run into some hiccups.
Yeah. And well, there's a couple caveats. Like, so with the face masks becoming a mandatory, it's kind of messing up the algorithms that make facial recognition work. And there's even other hiccups that are coming along. Like, I think it was a couple years ago that a Chinese celebrity was ticketed wrongly for jaywalking just because she had an advertisement on the side of a bus. And there's a new tool that's even just been released called Fox. I figure it's appropriately named, and it modifies your photo and then makes it so facial recognition scrapers can't recognize the photo. It'll teach them wrong, and it doesn't look any different from the human eye. So you can look at it and it looks the exact same, but a facial recognition software can't understand what it's doing.
So the story about the celebrity, if I understand this correctly, the camera, kind of like a red light camera that we would see in Canada for, you know, speeding through the red light, is watching crosswalks. And then all of a sudden a bus goes by with a celebrity's picture. We always see the billboards on the sides of buses. So a bus goes by, the facial recognition system recognizes her face in the crosswalk. Turns out it's not actually her. It was a photo of her that was on a bus in the crosswalk when the pedestrian wasn't supposed to be. And she received a ticket for that?
Well, so they have this big shaming thing. It's in Ningbo, China. And it's kind of like a public shaming billboard. I'm not sure if she actually got like a monetary ticket in the mail, but they plastered her face on this big billboard for like a few minutes. And just kind of shamed her for jaywalking. And I'm assuming it went viral immediately on Weibo and like the Chinese version of Facebook and Twitter. And yeah, just kind of went from there, and Chinese police had to apologize and they disabled it. But now they've come back with even more scary things. Like they developed an AI that can recognize who you are based on your walk.
Wow.
Yeah, so based on the way you walk, they can tell who you are.
That's crazy. So are masks working in our favor right now to stop them from recognizing us?
You know, I figure they are, and I kind of I have no problem wearing mine.
Yeah. I mean, if it's going to stop them from seeing us, maybe it's not a bad thing, but is it the challenge of it just going to force them to get more detailed inside the facial recognition? I guess it could go both ways, couldn't it?
Well, yeah, and it's kind of a bittersweet because you're protecting yourself, but at the same time, we would hope that they're going to develop that better to recognize people with masks, and they are working on developing it better. Just because of things like terrorism or for things that are really mandatory to keep people safe, I think that would be definitely a benefit.
Yeah, but can you imagine that if they made masks mandatory on a certain street because of something happening, and not only could you walk down the street, but the camera could see that your face doesn't have a mask on it, and then in addition to that, recognize your face and automatically send you a ticket for it, and nobody even came and talked to you, it just saw you. I mean, that is potentially, I realize I'm making that up, but it is possible, isn't it?
You're not even making it up. That I guarantee we're going to see things like that happening in the UK because they currently have, and probably even China too, because the UK currently has facial recognition and they have the CCTV system on all their streets. So I wouldn't be surprised if they if they enforced some bylaw with masks and then enforced ticketing people that the cameras were able to easily identify.
Oh, it's concerning. Thanks so much for the time tonight, Hank. I appreciate it, and thanks for the insight. We'll talk to you again soon, buddy.
Thank you so much, Shane.
Hank Fordham, Hank the Hacker from Centurion Defense in Calgary, giving us some inside scoop of what we can look forward to or not look forward to in regards to technology. So watch those emails, and you can get that pwned address, PW. It's like owned, but with a P. And to find out, quick Google, and you can see if your information has been leaked or sold on the dark web. You know, next time we have Hank on, I'm going to ask him, what does the dark web look like? I imagine it's kind of like a back alley that you see in movies. I have no idea. We'll see what that looks like. All right. Are you okay? And more coming up for you here on The Shift. I'm Shane Hewitt.
It's talk radio for an up-late nation. This is Canada's all-night conversation. The Shift